Thompson also cited Scotland itself as a major influence in their music. It's rainy and miserable in Scotland, and there are lots of angry people. In a way, that's a big part of why our music sounds the way it does.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. Does she walk? Does she talk? Does she come complete? My homeroom angel always pulled me from my seat. She was pure like snowflakes. No one could ever stain that memory of my angel. Could never cause me pain. More on that later. But first, we've got to listen to a track that Andy selected. Andy, how the devil are you, sir?
I am well. Thank you for inquiring. I hope you can say the same.
I could.
You could. All right. Well, let's run with that because no one wants to hear otherwise. I have a band that I've been wanting to bring to the channel. I thought you may have been familiar with. They are called We Were Promised Jetpacks.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where it kind of rings a bell, but I remember that was our mantra through the early 90s anyway. So hoverboards and jetpacks were the two things.
Hoverboards is exactly where my brain went. Exactly. But you had like the Rocketeer, so I guess you could want a jetpack as well. You know what I mean? Yeah, although I'd take that hoverboard any day.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, according to Woody Allen, the Orgasmatron as well. But anyway,
the number by them that I want you to go check out is called Quiet Little Voices.
Okay.
All right. So I'm assuming no background with this band, right? Okay, cool. All righty. Go off and give it a listen and let me know what you think, bud.
Will do.
All right.
Okay, that's a really nice start. Yeah, I like this sort of the fast strumming. It's almost like a galloping pace, and it gives a sort of sense of urgency. You know, so you're racing through it. He sounded Scottish to me. I don't know what to say about that, but he does definitely sound Scottish. I hope he is. Yeah, it's a really good start. I really like the bass actually. They sort of like pounded a bit just as they kicked in, and then he was doing some nice stuff there before. I was kind of, they went through the rounds again and again, and I was expecting it to change up to something else, which it just did. So I'm going to whiz it back a little bit because that's quite a nice little change up. Actually, I like the change up even more the second time. Really full sound comes in. Um, it does sound great, and obviously with those backing vocals, sort of gives it a sing along anthemic quality to it. You can see that they're pushing all the right buttons, ticking the right boxes to make this song very likable, and it is. And bass, excellent.
I better start now. I better start. Quiet little voices, quiet little voice, quiet little voices, quiet little
That's it. Yeah, that was a really fun tune. It wasn't anything particularly new, but it was really enjoyable, sort of head bopping, sing alongy. It kind of that sound. A few bands that spring to mind, but it's that sort of. It came from the early mid noughties, like British sounds like that. Um, yeah, yeah, I would like this. It was a good song. I have to find out more about We Were Promised Jetpacks, and to do that, yes, I'm afraid I'll have to speak to Andy.
Welcome back. So,
So much.
what did you think of We Were Promised Jetpacks and this tune?
Yeah, it's interesting on this. It starts off with this nice strumming guitar that's soon joined by some nifty hi-hat work on the bass, which kind of then punches out a beat to introduce the first verse. And the chap starts singing, and he definitely has a Scottish accent to my ears, and it feels familiar, this song. Not that I've heard this song, but the feel of the song feels familiar. So I unpack my Sonic GPS, and it places me in the mid noughties, British sounding, and then other sort of, it kind of, this sort of music kind of follows on from what the Futurehead started, at the beginning of the noughties. And then you had quite a few bands come in with their own take, as it were, of the time. But there's for me, there's a little bit of like Young Knives in there and some other stuff as well, without it sounding like another band completely at all. But I've always enjoyed this kind of sound because it's got sort of indie feel to it. It's also got a bit of that sort of right at the edges of post-punk in terms of the way they use the guitars as well. So it's
Mhm.
got all that, but of that era. So it's not sounding like a throwback at all. And there was a few bands like that, and they were all really sort of enjoyable. So I know I always enjoyed that sound. So yeah, and the energy as well. So there's always a lot of energy in it as well. So yeah, the singer has a decent voice, and he has that style, and it's really hard to describe. But I know what I mean, but I don't know if I can put it into words. But when he's singing, it feels like it's coming out of him like a flow, and certain words are extended or certain notes are extended. It's almost like a flow coming out. He's just shaping it into words as it goes, rather than someone who sings words. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So couple that with the sort of galloping nature of the guitars and the music, and the lines sometimes repeated, it has a sense of urgency and immediacy to it, which I really like. And I have to say the bass has a great pounding quality to it as well. So it's all sort of ticking the boxes, and it's a winner for me to this point. And then he's one of the lines is repeated. He extends the word "I'll fall," and then the full sound kicks in, and that was really nice. I actually pulled it back because I was going to talk about the start, and then when I played it the second time, it kicked in even better. It sounded even better the second time, and it was like stepping outside of a slightly, stuffy room in a house out onto the patio outside in a summer evening, when it's dark, but it's still quite light because of the moonlight or whatever. It had that feel. It's really, really nice. And it's nice to do that sonically as well. It wasn't particularly sort of, muffled before, but you realized when it opened up how clear that is compared to what it was before. So that's a really nice touch. So there's really glorious guitars into this chorus, so then supported by the backing vocals and the ooh, ooh, and it gives it all that sing-along quality, and dare I say it, slightly anthemic. So by now you're outside, you've gone down to the sort of lawn. It's almost like a country house, this, and you imagine yourself dancing around a huge bonfire outside, and the flickering flames light up your fellow dancers' faces, and you feel alive. That's how I felt at that point. I really like the bass at this point. It's doing these lovely little counter melodies, particularly at the end of the lines, and it kind of frames the riffs, rather than if you were, cold-hearted, you'd say it was, slightly boring, the riffs. But I know, me, you could just play the same. The three riffs are good. You could play the same three riffs for 10 minutes and I'd be happy. So, but the way they did it with the bass framing it really worked really well. Then as the song progresses, there's a customary stop, pause for breath, and then relaunch again, which you got a lot of at that time. And again, it's a little crowd pleaser. There's nothing wrong with it at all. And then it progresses again, and then you have that dropout. You just have the strumming guitar, and then one by one they come back onto the party bus, and the bass is doing his little showing off a bit for a second or two, just really brief, not so it's annoying. And then it's a repeat and rinse to the end as it gets, heads down, strumming like crazy, and then you feel fully swept up in it. I really enjoyed this. There's nothing at all about this that changes the musical landscape forever, but it is done really well. And it lightened my heart to hear it for a few minutes. I get the feeling these guys are a youngish band. They're full of vim and vigor, and that was particularly conveyed by this song as well.
Yeah. Everything you said is true. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're like you've noticed. They're not from East Lansing, Michigan, which I was going to drop in there, but no, they're definitely Scottish, and they are, as you put it, this amalgam of indie rock and post-punk revival. And they are from Edinburgh, and they were formed in 2003. And they consist of Adam Thompson on vocals and guitar, Sean Smith on bass, and Darren Lackey on drums, though they had two other members, Stuart McCacken, who was with them for a few years, and actually a founding member, Michael Palmer, who left in 2019. So yeah, they have cited label mates, Frightened Rabbit, and the
Oh yeah, yeah.
Twilight, yeah, and the Twilight Sad, who we've covered on this channel as well, as influences alongside Biffy Clyro's earlier material. Thompson also cited Scotland itself as a major influence in their music. It's rainy and miserable in Scotland, and there are lots of angry people. In a way, that's a big part of why our music sounds the way it does. It's music that sounds sort of like that. So,
Fair
um,
enough.
yeah, fair. And to date, they've released 5 albums and 3 EPs. And on June 15th, 2009, the band released their debut album, These Four Walls. And they would go on to tour the United States multiple times in the wake of the album's release, including a tour with Jimmy Eat World, who is a band that we've also covered on this channel. And that was in 2010. Absolute Punk rated the album a 90%. The AV Club gave it a grade of A-, and Clash Periodical gave it an 8 out of 10. And aggregated all together by the folks over at Metacritic, they found that it was a rating of 72 out of 100, which I think by Metacritic is a pretty damn good score.
Yeah.
So, yeah. This was, I think, the first single off the first album. I'm not 100% sure. Folks out there in the listening audience, let me know if I'm correct. I think there were like 4 singles off that debut album, which is pretty damn promising for a debut album. You know, some folks only get 2 if they're lucky. So to get 4, to know 4 singles out of a debut album is pretty damn good. You're usually not afforded that opportunity unless you've got a little cash with the studio. They said, no, we think we've got 4 hits on our hands. So that's awesome.
Just that reminds me. So I remember sitting down at school. We're in I don't know what class. It might be drama or something. Somewhere where you don't do anything. You know, we're just sitting around talking. And there was this debate about, because it was a new thing at the time, that Bowie had released Let's Dance, the album, but he'd also released 4 singles off the album, and that was unheard of at the time. Because like you said, it was usually 1 or 2, and that's what sold the album. And then Bowie had released 4, and there was a couple of kids in the class going, it's so unfair, because we've virtually got the album, but we're still going to go out and buy it. And I was just saying, you've got the choice, you idiot. You know, you don't have to. No one's like put a gun to your head.
You were
but I just thought it was
free will, like exercise it.
But it was seen as quite a big thing, you know, I guess among some people at the time, that 4 singles off 1 album, like wow.
Yeah.
You know? But that was Bowie's cash cow at the time. That was the first time he'd actually made shitloads of money from something. Thank you, Nile Rodgers. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, good company there on the 4 singles off an album.
Just to say, you did say the date. Did you say 2009?
9 was the debut.
Wow, it's later than I thought.
Yeah.
I'd have thought this is about 2000. Well, yeah, it didn't really matter, but yeah, cool.
Yep. All right, well, let's jump into the lyrics here. Quiet little voices creep into my head. I'm young again. I'm young again. I'm young again. I'm young again. Quiet little monsters creep into my bedroom wall. I'll fall for you. I'll fall for you. I'll fall for you. Quiet words of wisdom creep into your victim's ears. I'll die for you. I'll die for you. I'll die for you. In any which direction, call me. I will run for you. I'll come for you. I'll die for you. I'll come for you. Quiet little voices creep into my head. I'm young again. I'm young again. I'm young again. I'm young again. Quiet little monsters creep into my head. I'll fall for you. I'll fall for you. I'll fall for you. I'll fall. Quiet little voices, quiet little oh, and then that part.
Yeah.
Quiet little monsters, quiet little oh, and then that part again. And that repeats itself. And the bridge, I'd better start now. I'd better start. And then quiet little voices, quiet little oh, quiet little monsters, quiet little oh. So, I don't know. I always listen to this as like the voices of doubt or insecurity creeping into your head and maybe even invading your sleep with this illusion of crawling down the bedroom walls or through the bedroom walls. Like, you know, you're not going to bring up the bedroom unless you're sleeping in a situation like this. So yeah, it sounds like he's kind of plagued or riddled with self-doubt. that start off as quiet little voices, but have incendiary effect like a monster might. Or, that's my guess, something to that effect. And I like that. I like these lyrics. I think everybody has been in a spot where they haven't felt 100% sure about something that's paramount, or perhaps even themselves. So yeah, it's vulnerability, and it's kind of quasi-universal. I think most people have experienced something like this. So yeah, the first time I heard this song, I thought this was wonderful, and just another great UK act that was coming out around that time when there were a lot of New York, San Francisco, Pacific Northwest, and UK bands all really doing some great indie shit. And this was on a long list of some of those acts that crossed my path. And there are some other tracks off this album that I am a really, really big fan of. But thank you for giving this one a listen. It sort of stood out to me as probably the best for a good introduction to them, and for the channel. So appreciate you, man.
Yeah, it's great.
Excellent, man. I'm really, really glad you liked it. Guys out there in the listening audience, let us know what you thought of We Were Promised Jetpacks and this track. If there's any other, obviously there's, as I mentioned, with as many albums and EPs as they have, there's other material out there that's also really good. So if you have any recommendations that you would like to put forth, please jump down in the comment field and let us know. If you're like John, or even if you're like either of us, right, and you listen to a song and it reminds you of other stuff you've heard before, let us know what that might be. If these guys remind you of anything you've heard before. Obviously, when you're dealing with something that's like post-punk revival, there's going to be shades of the original iteration of post-punk that are coming through. If there's anything there that sticks out, please let us know. Or if you have any other suggestions at all, even unrelated to these guys, drop them down there. We're always keen on checking that stuff out and adding it to our list. If you'd be so kind, perhaps like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to grow the channel. Can't do that without you. You newcomers, please. There's buttons down there if you enjoy what you got. Doesn't cost you anything, and we would be forever appreciative of that. All that out of the way, John and I will see you on the next episode of The Audiophiles. See you later, guys.